This video is supported by Squarespace. Hey, Marcus House with you here. A real mixed bag this week. The results from the FAA's environmental assessment are finally in, and yes, there is a good reason that I am grinning ear to ear. More on that, plus so many great updates since then. Yep, lots to talk about here. Sadly, Astra experienced more setbacks with another launch issue, a record-breaking launch by Falcon 9 with Starlink, and an update on the grounded cargo Dragon. We've got some good news there. And then it turns out that the next generation of mobile launch platform for the SLS will cost more than expected? Yes, a lot more.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
So obviously the breaking news early in the week was that the Federal Aviation Administration did finally release the 2021 Programmatic Environmental Assessment for Starbase. This is all terrific news because SpaceX has been granted a mitigated FONSI, which stands for a finding of no significant impact. I published a short video on that midweek if you missed that one. Rather than recover that ground, I thought I would add a little bit more detail in a few areas that I think are interesting at the end of this video. As we know, before SpaceX can achieve the actual launch license, which is really the next step, they must mitigate 75 areas of impact. There is just so much in here that would really take a good few hours to really discuss, so I'll leave the link to the documents in the description if you would like to run through. So, with all of these updates, including that FAA news, when do we think the first orbital flight test may be? Well, Musk, as always being the optimist, announced his feelings on this, suggesting that Starship will be ready to fly next month in July. Road closures are suggesting Booster 7 will roll to the pad for static fires early this week. I suspect by this time next weekend, we may have already seen some of that static fire action. He also added that SpaceX should have a second Starship stack ready to fly in August, and then monthly thereafter. That is quite the statement right there, and obviously there is a difference between ready to fly and actually flying. I'm going to be a little less optimistic and say that I think it might first fly in August, but what are your thoughts? Work is also ramping up significantly at the Florida Starbase site as well. The first pieces of the tower arms for Launch Complex 39A were spotted. There is going to be a lot of rapid assembly once all of this gets shipped over to the pad. The very first tower section has already been rolled to pad 39A from Starbase in Florida, as captured by the NASA spaceflight team live streaming the event. It has now been decked out with pipes, floors, and so much that was never added until after stacking occurred with the first tower segments at Texas. Greg Scott and Farrielle took to the skies again to provide super valuable updates on Roberts Road and the progress at 39A. Please do support them on Patreon so they can keep on doing that. Link is in the description. Since the last flight, we can see that a lot more foundation work has continued at both the high bay and the Star Factory here. Most interesting, of course, is seeing the first tower segment is now moved over to 39A, where we also see huge progress on the cranes getting ready for stacking. I'm predicting that we will see most of the remaining tower sections moving over the next 2 weeks. Just to the left here, check out this filthy booster. This is the new record breaker for Starlink, which I'll talk about shortly. Now, check this out in the middle. This mystery structure didn't exist a few weeks ago. What is it? Well, it's placed right between the launch towers. Total speculation what it may be, but dare I say, a huge volume of water in some kind of gigantic container type thing would be perfectly positioned to help protect Pad 39A from Starship launches. See these massive rings here that have just been spotted? They look to be around 20 meters wide. Now, you might think that I'm being a little facetious here, however, I'm kind of thinking that this may actually be the case due to the growing concern by NASA that Starship launches from this location could cause damage to Pad 39A. This is currently the only pad approved to launch the company's Crew Dragon capsule. NASA depends on that spacecraft very much, given that it is the only vehicle capable of launching their astronauts to the ISS without the help of Russia's Soyuz. Due to the obvious reasons why that would currently be a bad option, NASA officials in recent months have told SpaceX that a Starship explosion at Launch Complex 39A could effectively cut off their ability to launch crew. Obviously, this excludes things like the upcoming approvals of Starliner if that does happen. It has been a long road to get here so far. So SpaceX has obviously already invested heavily in building a Starship pad a few hundred meters from the crew launch tower. The solution to this risk? Well, SpaceX have responded by pitching NASA on a plan to outfit Launch Complex 40 with the means to launch US astronauts as well. They are also studying ways to make Pad 39A more resilient to both an explosive Starship accident and even just the immense forces emitted from a successful Starship liftoff. So yes, lots of cool information there from Florida, but also work has been progressing at Starbase in Texas to get this system ready for flight. Firstly, are updates on Ship 24 with a great shot shared by Elon Musk on Twitter with it being worked on in the high bay. The Raptor engine installation on Ship 24 here is hopefully well underway by now, but I can't help but feel that we've seen a little more focus on its booster, which is Booster 7. What are most likely Raptor engine thermal protection system pieces for Booster 7 was spotted here by Starship Gazer. These pieces are mounted over the Raptor engine turbo pump assembly to protect it in flight and during the ground testing, as we've seen with Booster 4. Along with that, as we saw last week, Booster 7 has got all of its 33 engines now, and it also seems that once it is rolled to the pad, it's going to be lifted onto the orbital launch mount for the first time by the actual chopsticks. This is due to a booster lifting simulation being conducted with the chopsticks last Sunday. They rose up to the correct height, translated over the orbital launch mount, and began lowering. After being removed after a test fit a few weeks ago, the aft cover of the booster quick disconnect on the orbital launch mount was yet again lifted into place. A few days later, we saw what seemed to be a full-speed test of the booster quick disconnect hood. It really has been a hive of activity. Even crews from NASA were spotted on site at Starbase last week for a tour of the facilities. The NASA Human Landing System team was offered a personal update on the machine that will take their astronauts to the lunar surface for Artemis. Yes, very exciting times are coming up in the near future. So what about the next vehicles in line? Well, at the production site, Ship 27 had its aft dome sleeve spotted this week, and along with that, the B7.1 test tank's forward section was moved into the high bay recently, where it was then stacked on its aft section, getting closer for some interesting tests there. This was moved to the launch site on Thursday night ahead of what we believe will be a can crusher test. On Thursday, the cap of the can crusher system was also seen being transported, so we should see the test tank placed onto the bottom mount of the can crusher with this cap placed on top with 20 cables connected to squeeze the test tank down to simulate the maximum forces predicted during flight. So, as we approach the next milestones, that being the static fires of Booster 7, I certainly won't be at all surprised if we see a complex and quite lengthy testing campaign. SpaceX especially need to make sure that the orbital launch mount is prepared for the incredibly complex series of quick disconnect actions needed within a fraction of a second at liftoff. One issue with any of these parts at liftoff, and that could be an incredibly destructive end for the entire vehicle. Right after the Raptor boost engines are lit, all 20 of these quick disconnect lines for the boost engines need to be pulled back. Immediately after, the hold down clamps will simultaneously open up, letting go of the booster. This entire mechanism needs to retract out of the way as the booster starts ascending, and this is because the skirt is wider than where the clamps attach. SpaceX chose to use this complex system for the Raptor boost engines because it saves on weight by not having plumbing or extra COPVs or composite overwrapped pressure vessels on the booster, and these boost engines are never ever relit after main engine cutoff. Now obviously this beautiful work that you're seeing right here is all done by the amazing Ryan Hansen, working with the community to build up the most detailed render of all of this that I've ever seen so far. RGV aerial photography also weeks back captured this, which has been shared with me from a number of places. If you look real close here, it looks like SpaceX were conducting a number of calibration tests with this system. It's unclear exactly how this would work, but the crane here is holding a device which has cables running out near all 20 of the hold down clamps. That was pretty interesting, so let me know if you know exactly what they may have been doing here. Thanks a heap as well for Ryan Hansen here providing this to us. Make sure that you are following him there on Twitter. It helps a heap for him to have that support. It isn't just those like me here sharing such stuff that needs the followers and subscribers. It's just as critical that the 3D artists out there get this level of backing, so thanks as always for supporting what all of us do here. Now, we had quite the hiccup on Astra's launch this week. More on that in just a moment, but real quick, a big thanks to Squarespace today for supporting this video. Squarespace encompasses all of the basic tools that you need to get a website up and running. Remember when you needed an expensive web developer to get a simple site up on the internet? That made it pretty tough to get a small business or hobby project online. Well, this is a thing of the past. You can right now browse through and select any of the industry-leading website templates available, all with beautiful designer fonts and colors that with minimal effort will closely match what you have in your mind. You can have your demo site up and running in just hours, all ready for text, video, and images to be rapidly added. Once you have a style set up, you can make yourself stand out by gathering subscribers and sending matching branded email campaigns using the equally useful email templates. If you want to sell products, that is no problem either. Squarespace does all of the e-commerce security and setup for you without the need for separate and sometimes expensive payment gateways. If you have questions, there are so many support options to help you out as well. If you want to check it out for yourself, just head to squarespace.com/MarcusHouse, and at the same time you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with my link here in the description. Thank you, Squarespace. So yes, the day after last Saturday's video, we watched the new launch provider Astra poised for liftoff from Space Launch Complex 46 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The rocket here was carrying 2 NASA CubeSats for the mission named TROPICS-1. Astra's Rocket 3.3 initially had a hold declared during the 2-hour launch window while a liquid oxygen issue was fixed. That all seemed minor though, and it was soon time to resume the countdown. There we had the liftoff and ascent, and all seemed to go as planned. Main engine cutoff, stage separation, and fairing jettison all seemed to go well, and the second stage powered onwards. This stage needed to burn for the expected time of just over 5 minutes to attain the desired orbital insertion. Sadly though, at just after 4 minutes into the burn, it all came unstuck after it had been going so well. Normally, similar to Falcon 9's second stage, if it's burning cleanly, you can barely notice any activity at all from the engine. This exhaust hiccup here was a telltale sign that something was indeed wrong, and as the jittery signal threw handfuls of frames back at all of us watching, it was clear that the second stage had departed its flight path and was tumbling now out of control. Obviously, another bad day for Astra. So the second stage and the payloads on board obviously did not achieve orbit, and a tweet here from Chris Kemp, Astra's CEO, again apologising for the mission's failure. Sadly, this is the second mission failure for Astra in 3 launches for 2022. And not only did the second stage take a tumble, so did Astra's stock value, with the first day trade after the incident wiping 24% off its share value. Ouch. So what does this mean for Astra and NASA with the remaining 2 TROPICS missions? Well, a pause for now while the FAA and Astra lead an anomaly investigation. NASA has stated that they only need 4 CubeSats to ensure the TROPICS mission's success, so there is a little bit more leeway here. What is great to see here, I think, is the resolute and steadfast support of NASA to continue on with Astra after the loss of a previous payload on February the 10th of this year. Saying that, this is the point of investing in new external providers. NASA do openly state their risk acceptance for such missions as they seek to further foster growth in the industry, and once these vehicles are operational and reliable, the flow-on effects to cheaper and varied launch options becomes obvious. Hopefully the team at Astra can solve this issue, and all of us, I'm sure, wish the team there a resounding success for the next 2 TROPICS launches to follow. Another great Starlink flight this week too from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, but better yet, this has set the new reuse record for a Falcon 9 booster. This booster, number 1060, had its 13th flight to deliver yet another 53 Starlink satellites to orbit. Yet another beautiful clear day with astounding shots of the ascent, stage separation, and the only glimpse of the satellites there at fairing separation. The booster itself again had incredibly crisp and uninterrupted footage right through the re-entry burn, right down through the cloud layer. Just check out that shadow of the booster as it passes through there. Look at that, and a clean signal all the way back to the deck. And there we go, the record-breaking landing. 13 launches and landings, with this one touching down successfully yet again on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. What is also cool is that this was at the same time the 100th reuse of a booster. How cool is that? The satellite deployment SpaceX didn't bother to show again, cutting off the stream right after, but they did tweet the success afterwards, which seems to be the norm these days. Now, speaking of the satellites themselves, with the continued growth of the Starlink internet constellation, we have become quite accustomed to seeing the rapid successful launch cadence continue for quite some time. With this success, though, has come somewhat of an expected voice of opposition from astronomical societies, both professional and amateur. Now, the night sky is their workplace, of course, and bright satellites do impact their observations. Now, I will just quickly point out that this is not an issue unique to SpaceX, with OneWeb also well into their planned deployments of some 648 satellites and significant efforts to reduce reflectivity. Then there is Amazon's Kuiper project in the near future, with their planned 3,200 satellite Megaconstellation, with one of their 2 prototypes to include a form of visor. So mitigations of excessive light reflection is paramount here if all sides are to be happy. As we already know, SpaceX, OneWeb and others have been working with various astronomical societies to lessen the impact on astronomical observations. The voluntary use of a visor by SpaceX was implemented 2 years ago, and results were encouraging, with a noted drop in reflectivity. However, with the advent of the inter-satellite relay communications, these visors would block the infrared laser, whereas the previous methods of radio waves had no such issue. As such, the visors have been left off the newer iterations, with other materials being tested such as stickers, dielectric mirrors to deflect light away from observers below, and light-absorbing paint. Now, with the recent revelation from Elon Musk that the Starlink version 2 satellites are going to be 7 meters long, this has many in the astronomical arena somewhat worried. Currently, there are no laws regulating how bright satellites should be in the night sky. The suggested limit by astronomers is magnitude 7. The higher this number, the harder they are to visually detect. Currently, it seems that most satellites involved here sit at around 5 to 6, which is a higher brightness. It can therefore be reasonably speculated that a 7-meter long satellite will be brighter than the versions before it. That's assuming, of course, that there is not some proprietary solution already in place that can't be openly commented on at this time. Now, I have got an interesting talk on all of this linked in the description, which is published on the Federation of Astronomical Societies channel, also shared there by Jonathan McDowell, who is very respected in this area on Twitter. Quite fascinating. Now, very shortly after this video goes live, we also have another Falcon 9 launching the Sarah 1 mission. This is a phased array radar satellite by Airbus for the German military. It's also going to be joined by other unknown smaller rideshare customers as well. This will be an exciting return to landing site, which is hopefully all going to be visible, assuming the fog doesn't blanket the area. Always fun ones to watch. Then there is potentially the Globestar FM-15 mission from Space Launch Complex 40 on Sunday. Yep, 3 Falcon 9s in 3 days. Only SpaceX. So, as mentioned in last week's episode, SpaceX's Commercial Resupply Service Mission 25 for NASA, known as CRS-25, did not launch as expected on June the 10th. As we soon found out, of course, a new launch date would not be decided on until the root cause of the elevated propellant vapor was identified and the issue resolved. Well, good news this week, with the investigations finding the cause. It was narrowed down to a Draco thruster valve inlet joint, with the hardware to be replaced followed by testing. A new target date for launch has now been announced, which is now no earlier than July the 11th, a little over 3 weeks from now, so we just need to be a little bit more patient on that one. This particular Cargo Dragon spacecraft has already flown 2 missions, so that is probably why we're seeing some little hiccups like this, and its next return to the International Space Station will bring over 2 metric tons of equipment, science, and supplies for the crew. I'm super happy that the reported issue is really nothing too serious and that a quick repair is underway. Some interesting space launch system news here as well. Well, not so much the rocket, but the launch platform. Now, if there is ever an argument for NASA to use fixed price contracting, this has to be it, surely. A recent audit by NASA's Office of Inspector General was scathing at the cost blowout for the new mobile launch platform to be used for the Artemis 4 missions onwards. This new platform is going to support a revised Block 1B version of SLS that current equipment simply can't handle. NASA signed a cost-plus contract in June of 2019 for $383 million to take delivery in March of 2023. As is sadly the typical pattern for such an agreement, after significant delays, an independent review has advised the cost to now be an astronomical $1.5 billion. Yep, billion, so about 4 times the cost, and that delivery is now expected sometime around the end of 2027. The auditor report stated that the company engaged for this project severely underestimated its complexity, or as NASA Administrator Bill Nelson so eloquently stated in the Senate hearing in May, the company concerned underbid to get the contract and were never up to the task. Yeah, ouch. NASA is looking to convert parts of this contract to a fixed price, but the company involved here needs to agree. One would hope that after such a monumental blunder as this seems to be, the contracted company needs to step up to the plate here. I'm sure the US taxpayer is absolutely sick of those stories. Now, as I said at the start of the video, a few points from the FAA's requests to SpaceX that I thought were particularly interesting. Firstly, there is a requirement here that they monitor the effects of vibrations caused from the launches around nearby locations. Now, that is actually a benefit, in my opinion, as it provides great research data which is useful to SpaceX and any other launch provider, I would think, assuming that the data is openly shared. There are a lot of other items relating to the monitoring and protection of sea turtles in the area, and they also need to be actively involved in the restoration of algal flats nearby as well. Another interesting mention was that SpaceX are requested to continue offering enhanced satellite monitoring via their solar-powered Starlink to the Peregrine Fund, essentially continuous video coverage of falcons and the habitat, which will all aid in biological monitoring. There is a lot of this kind of stuff there that SpaceX are requested to help monitor and control. So many of the mitigations, though, are really just common sense stuff. If any damage occurs to nearby public roads due to all of the construction work going on, SpaceX must have it repaired. Well, obviously, right? And they need to comply with all of the federal, state, and local regulations when it comes to storing hazardous material. Well, yeah, of course. So, although people may think the 75 mitigations are a big deal, many of these are just kind of obvious stuff that would have always been the case. So that about does it for the week. I'll be back again next Saturday as always. You guys make this channel what it is. You, the community, and everybody that is thrilled by everything going on in the space industry. Starship once again looking extremely positive after all of this FAA uncertainty. It is indeed time to see Starship fully stacked once again, and hey, if you need some new gear to wear, the link to this one and all of the designs are right there in the description. A huge thanks to all of the amazing patrons and YouTube members here scrolling by. Just check out all of you there. I'm so honoured that you love what I do so much to throw a few dollars at us each month to keep the lights on. You've got no idea how much that helps the team and I out. If you would also like to support and to get some ad-free video releases before anyone else gets to see them, the links are right there below. The tile in the bottom left today will take you back to the midweek video if you missed that one about the FAA announcement. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, a YouTube selected video. Thank you everyone for watching all this way through, and I'll see you in the next video.